Hello friends and potential friends. Well, today is Sunday, March 14th, 2021. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and we've already topped out over 80 degrees today. Hopefully it'll start cooling off here pretty soon. Most of the bikers are on their way out of town, so hopefully we won't have too many loud muffler interruptions. But I need to do some preparations for something a little bit of an experiment or project that I'm gonna try out. Something I've never done before. And the way I'm going to start that is by harvesting some of this cabbage I've got right here. Now this is the first time that I've successfully grown cabbage, and though they're not real big by most people's standards, there's a couple of them here that I'm fixing to take in the house and try to do something with. So let's go ahead and pull these two bigger ones off of here. There's one about the size of a softball. And the other one over here is just a little bit bigger than that first one. Cute little things, but I got to them before the bugs did, so I consider that to be a win. Not real huge, but they'll serve my purpose. I basically need about 2 pounds of this, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get to the 2 pounds here. But let's head inside and see what I'm going to do. Well, I bet you were wondering what I was going to do with the cabbage. Yesterday I received a package that I had ordered, and I got myself the complete fermentation kit from Masontops. So I'm going to see about making some sauerkraut. The kit includes everything you need. These fancy little glass, what are they? I forget what they call them, but they're weights that you put on top of the cabbage. It's got, well packed, 4 of these little burp lids, I'll call them. That keeps me from having to come and burp the jar every couple of hours. And one of their wooden vegetable press thingy-bobbers. Also comes with a little fermentation guide and recipe book, and the first recipe in there is to make 1 quart of traditional sauerkraut. What I need for that, it says 1 small red or green cabbage, about 2 pounds. Apparently they didn't know how small my cabbages were, because I got 2 of them here, and I still had to use a half a cabbage from the store to add up to 2 pounds. 1 tablespoon of fine grind salt. I'll be using the pickling and canning salt since I've got it. And optionally you can add a teaspoon of whole spices such as caraway, dill, or celery seed. And I currently don't have any of those, and I don't feel like experimenting, so I'm going to just leave that out since it's optional. I went ahead and rinsed the cabbage, cleaned them off good, removed the outer leaves so that I've got good fresh leaves. Now I've got to cut these up into quarters, and then I'm going to slice them down and into as fine shreds as I can make them. And I'll be putting them in my popcorn bowl as I do that. So let's start off with that and into the bowl, and I'll bring you back then. There's my 2 pounds of cabbage. I neglected to mention that says while you're chopping it up to every so often sprinkle in a little bit of the salt until you use up all the salt. So I did that. I've got 1 tablespoon of salt mixed in with the cabbage. Shredded it up as well as I could. We'll see how well that works out. It also mentioned before you start cutting up the cabbage to peel off 1 large leaf and set it aside. They didn't know the size of my cabbages, so I cheated and I went out and picked a collard leaf. Basically, that's going to be used at the end of the process. I'll put it over the top of the cabbage once it's in the jar, and then I'll put the weight on top of it, and that'll hold everything down. That leaf is going to be there just to keep the cabbage submerged under the brine. And then before I eat it, I'll be discarding that leaf. But now I need to just mix this up real good to make sure the salt and the cabbage is well mixed. And according to this recipe, I'm going to be able to stuff all that cabbage into 1 quart jar. We shall see. And of course you have to make a mess while you're doing this. Or at least I do. I have to make a mess whenever I do anything in the kitchen. So we've got it well mixed. Now we use the pickle pounder thing here. Pickle packer they call it. And just start crushing this to try to break up some of the cell membranes and start pulling some of the juice out of the lettuce or out of the cabbage. And this is going to take a little while. Basically, you just make more messes, pound it down flat, and then mix it up a little bit more, and then pound it some more. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was sitting watching this, I'd be starting to get bored about now. I'm going to be at this probably for another 5-10 minutes. So I'll bring you back when I get ready for the next step. Okay, you may be able to tell that that cabbage has taken up a lot less volume than it did when I started. Now it's probably not apparent to you visually, but I can tell that I'm breaking down the cabbage cell walls a bit, and it's starting to get a little bit juicy. Oh, and incidentally, if you're interested, the recipe does say if you get tired of pounding, you can put a plate on top of this and then put some kind of a heavy weight on it and let it sit for a couple hours. However, I'm under a bit of a time crunch because this pressure canner is going to be finished in about 30-35 minutes, and I want to have this sauerkraut done by then. So I kept pounding. Been at it for about 10 minutes or so at least, and quite frankly I am getting tired. It does seem to be coming along, and there may even be a chance that I can manage to stuff most of this into the quart jar. I guess that's also what this pickle pounder is for. Because the next step, take a clean mason jar and start putting some of the cabbage into it. Since I've been canning today, see if I can avoid making any more mess than necessary. I need to put a handful or so of that in the jar, and then we use the pickle pounder, pound it down in there. Add a little bit more and do the same. This continues to break down the cell walls on the cabbage a little bit and also releases more of the juices. So I'm going to keep doing that, and I might just get all of that cabbage into that jar. We shall see. Okay, I had to bring you back and show this to you because quite frankly I didn't believe it myself. As I start pounding this stuff in, it's releasing more and more juice. Check that out. I hope you can see that. I can't see the screen from here. There we are. Oh, let me zoom it out a little bit before you. Don't you see the juice in there? All of that juice came out of the cabbage. So let me finish filling this thing up and we'll get on to the next step. Okay, the jar is filled up right to the shoulder of the jar. I do have a little bit of cabbage left over that I can't fit in there. But it says in the book if you have any left over, just toss it with a little bit of oil and vinegar and enjoy a salad. So now we take the cabbage leaf, or in my case the collard leaf that we had set aside earlier, and we have to cut it so that it's going to fit well into the jar. So I'm just going to trace around it. Hopefully not mess it up too bad, because I need it to help keep the cabbage down below that brine. So we got that like so. And then we place it down into the jar. And then we add one of the little weights to it. That'll make sure everything stays below the brine, so we won't have any spoilage. We take one of their little burpless chimney lids. Let's see what they call that. Green cabbage leaf, put it in the top. Sharp knife, cut it the diameter of the jar. And take a pickle pebble. The little glass thing is called a pickle pebble. I got a whole bunch of terminology I'm going to have to learn again. And let's see, I'm going to have to wipe the lid a little bit, make sure everything's nice and clean here. Then I put the pickle pipe on it, put a ring on it, and screw it down. And there we have it. Now I just take this, put it in a cool, dark area, and forget about it for the next couple of weeks. Now I can do dark. Cool might be a little bit difficult for me to achieve down here. So I'll probably have to be checking it a little bit sooner than 2 weeks. But that's it. In about 2 weeks, open it up and taste it. If it's the way you want it, you're done. Put it in the refrigerator and enjoy it over the next couple of months. If it's not the way you like it, not sour enough or whatever, put it back in the jar or in the cool, dark place and let it go for a while longer. And sooner or later, that should be sauerkraut. Now the fun part, I got a bunch of other veggies out there in the backyard. Collards, kale, Swiss chard, and I got 3 more of these lids and 3 more pickle pebbles. So I might start experimenting a little bit. And I shall bring you back probably in a couple of weeks when we do a taste test. Okay, today is March 25th, 2021. It's been about 11 days since I started my sauerkraut experiment. I noticed yesterday that the pickle pipe had depressed. It's been kind of bulged up for most of the last week and a half. But I'm suspecting the fact that it's laid down flat again indicates that the fermenting process is pretty much played out. So I think it's time to try this out and see what I've created. It does look pretty nice. I don't really see any discoloration, so I don't really think there's any rot going on. And when I tilt it, I can see that all of the cabbage is still pretty well below the brine level. So all that's really left is to give it a taste test. There is a little bit of a white mold on the top. I don't think that's anything bad, anything like that. Take out the weight, the pebble I think they called it, and remove my collard leaf. And what we have here looks like sauerkraut. Let's see what boy, that's packed in there good. Yeah, that is definitely packed in there good. So it's still pretty crisp, it feels like. Pretty firm. Now let's see what it tastes like. That tastes pretty good. Yep. That tastes like sauerkraut. Better verify, make sure that that first bite wasn't a fluke. Yep, that does taste pretty good, I must admit. I think we're going to call that one a success. So now I just need to put a regular lid on it, put it in the refrigerator. From what I understand, it'll stay good in the refrigerator for several months. Based on the taste of it, I don't think it's going to last that long. Next step, I guess, is to figure out what else I can ferment. I did notice this morning that I'm about due to pick some more collards, so maybe I'll try some collard kraut. There's some Swiss chard and kale out there that I could probably turn into kraut as well, or something similar. So, yep, it looks like I can do this. And if I can do it, I know anybody can do it. It was really pretty simple. The hardest part was just crushing down the cabbage. So I'm going to find me a few more jars and go do some picking and maybe figure out how to make some link sausage to go with it. And I'll see you on the next video.